SPM, a test most 18-year-olds will have to sit through, testing people on what they had learned from 16 to 17 years old. Now, how did I, as a science stream student that graduated/left a Chinese independent high school approximately 2 days ago, feel about the test? It was hard. It was hard and different. Mostly hard though. When this test came rolling around, I basically thought it would be like previous years, the same questions over and over. No! When I sat for their paper 3, the experiments you learned about to prepare you for this exam, misleading, mengelirukan. The papers were so different from the experiments we learned. It was like I was a clown in a circus. What usually was supposed to prove yeast fermentation produces carbon dioxide ended up turning into a test for the presence of glucose with that yeast. What was usually supposed to be a rectangular perspex block was instead a semicircular block. Semicircular! And made us draw a graph not for the relationship of sine angles, but draw the graph of the angles itself. What? For our Malay test, usually we would be asked to give 2 events which has happened from a novel of our choosing. Usually berdasarkan 2 novel yang telah Anda pelajari. Berikan satu peristiwa yang dapat dijadikan suri teladan. Luckily, I did prep for this sort of question. I did a couple of trial papers from other states before the test. But to those who didn't, tough luck, man. What was surprisingly easy though was the chemistry paper 2. It was way easier. Most of the stuff tested were just basic rules or principles of that chapter. The other subjects, however, you find the graphs drawn weirdly, words with incorrect spelling, questions with wrong numbers even. It's almost like the questions weren't checked professionally. Usually when it comes to these sort of big government official tests, you'd expect some sort of professionalism, maybe checking 4 to 5 times before handing them out for students to do. Maybe more mistakes would have been pointed out if they didn't check. But when 4 to 5 government staffs checked the questions and still somehow let some mistakes slip through, you kind of question the way these papers were even checked. Now there was a bit of complaint about the English listening test though. It went something like, Part 1. Students will be given 1 minute to read through the questions. Choose the following A, B, or C for each of the following questions. Alright, a bit loud, a bit slow, but I can work with it. Ali, have you read this novel recently? What are your thoughts about it? Ah yes, Abu. The novel was rather well written. It was rather comedic. All of the characters were given ample amounts of time to develop. The ending was rather satisfying as well. What color was Ali's shirt? Now, the answer is obviously yellow, but the media wasn't too happy about it. Twitter was making a lot of memes about it. The news had complained about it as well. Students even complained about their experience on TikTok. Now, students will have to remember 2 years worth of textbooks for our history test. When it came to the end of the test, people were outraged. There were like 2 people on the news, one trying to stop the other, crying about how the stuff he studied for didn't get tested, then insulted Singapore on TikTok. Now, not gonna lie, if you didn't study for the questions that were tested, just spitballing here, just saying out my thoughts, maybe you should study for that question next time? I don't know, just a thought. They did, however, brought up something about Singapore. Bolehkah pemisahan Singapura dapat dielakkan? Berikan alasan Anda. This was actually a question which was brought up to me before. After reading that part of the history textbook, I actually wondered, what if special rights of Malay were eliminated? Could this whole situation be prevented? And once that thought came to mind, I actively wrote the answer to the question. If it wasn't for a certain rule. See, when a sensitive issue is written as an answer for a question in any test paper, the total for that subject would be 0. Now, being a person who actually didn't use the brain, would I really let the possibility of getting a 0 for a must-pass subject stop me from actually giving out an answer which I think is proper? See, this is where it gets a bit messed up. The question was great, but the way it was executed, just that fear of getting D fresh A for my score just stops my creative flow entirely. I ended up just writing a bunch of compliments, something like, "No, everything that can be done has already been done. There's nothing we could have done." Basically the type of mindless compliments women would tell each other. There was genuinely so much good potential for that question, but yet it really just doesn't matter when you realize there are consequences if you write a certain answer. But if we really do set aside the Sijil paper, this year's SPM really did train people to think more critically. We have 2 math papers, one modern mathematics, one additional mathematics. Most of the math stuff taught while growing up were more detailed and in-depth, but I still had a hard time doing them regardless. While calculating the permutation and combination, they somehow were able to fit money into the question. Amazing! Just amazing, okay? Another was how they were able to ask you to calculate the maximum area of a box frame underneath a parabola using the parabola's gradient function. Do you understand the question? I understand. Yeah. This year's SPM really just hits different. For those in the arts stream still taking additional mathematics, props to you, actually goated. Here's a nice virtual trophy. Although it was difficult, nothing even came close to the Chinese test. Now, it has been said that SPM Chinese was purposefully made harder to discourage people to take the subject. It's probably true. I read 30 essays, studied how to interpret stories from the very old ages. Because, there is a pretty big difference between the Chinese now and the Chinese back in the olden days. And still, after taking the test, I really just... If I were to rank in terms of difficulty in ascending order, it would be chemistry first, basically everything else, additional mathematics, then of course, no one guessed it, Chinese. Although I am glad it was over, this whole thing basically means that my last day of high school just went by and a completely new chapter of life is upon me. So yeah, gotta get ready for those unforeseen accidents and future rejections from groups and friends. But hey, you gotta remain a positive outlook, positive happy. I'll probably get captured by government officials and sent to prison after this video. But if I don't, I'll make a community post. So subscribe to stay tuned for that. Till then, take care, drink food, eat water, namaste.